All right. So in the 10-minute mark of this live stream, I will go live and I will give you my reaction. So right now we are at 9:11, 9:12, 9:13. This is going to be an audio only. So stay tuned. The whole entire night, we didn't expect the finish. Not one time. The only time we knew that a finish was going to happen was going to be, guess what, in two places, the Hamza Shiraz fight, and sure enough, the Daniel Dubois and the Anthony Joshua fight. However, a lot of people did not give Anthony Joshua, or I'm sorry, Daniel Dubois, the credit, because they gave Anthony Joshua all the credit in the world as the quintessential favorite in this one. So here we go. 10-minute mark starts right now. All right. So I'm going to tell you what I honestly like about this. To be honest with you, this is what boxing needs. They talk about having boxing needing a shot in the arm of some sort of medicine or some sort of steroid. Well, this is what it is, because all the protective mechanisms that boxing has done all throughout the years is no longer existing in the world of Turkey El-Sheikh. And I'm going to tell you why. Because what was the main thing that a lot of people always complained about in the world of professional boxing back in the days when big matches were not able to be made? You know what they were? They were money. But guess what? Now that the Saudis have come in, the fact that they want to invest in their country and the fact that they want to hold on just a second. So the fact that the Saudis are looking to invest in their future country, as you can see with the tourism commercials that they were showing in between the rounds, it kind of shows you. It kind of shows you that, you know what, there's a good reason why they're paying a lot of these guys big money to have the big fights happen. Now, many people would have never imagined that somebody like Daniel Dubois could beat Anthony Joshua. Why? Because I'll tell you what, the two different types of promoting styles that, let's say, Frank Warren has in comparison to Eddie Hearn. You see, Eddie Hearn is a little bit more conventional, okay? And I have my mic. Sorry about that. Uh, do I have my mic on here? Mic check 1 2 1 2. Okay, make sure. Okay, this is the right mic on. Okay, so as I was saying, the right guy isn't sometimes the one that's, you know, in the Olympics. You know, sometimes it's the guy that comes from a very hard background in the likes of Daniel Dubois. So that's an example. Let me show you guys what I had mentioned on the couple of days prior to this matchup, sort of showing you guys a little plane crash that happened in my area, but at the same time, kind of giving you a perspective of where my head was at going into this matchup right here. So let me play this right here. We have live with us on location right now what seems to be a plane crash that had happened in this area. I think that it was an emergency landing that they were looking to do, and this was the closest field that this particular plane was able to land on. So as a result, this is what happened. They crashed. They were, I believe, upside down as they were found by the first responders here. So as a consequence to this, this is what they are doing right now. They are, I believe, examining the plane, taking the plane to some sort of tow truck and taking it somewhere, which I believe they're going to mount on top of that pickup truck right there. And as you can see right here, here are the firefighters of West Sacramento, while also the police, I believe, were here earlier. Obviously, there's one police officer right there sitting at the in the back of the truck, if you notice. And yes, this is just a few hours before the Anthony Joshua versus Dubois press conference, which, by the way, I am covering all throughout the week. Also, the fight that is going on this Saturday between them, which I think is going to be an absolute epic clash. Just like this right here, it was an epic crash. Hopefully, nobody got hurt, but this is the news that we have in front of you right now. And we're going to continue to cover this while we are going to discuss the press conference between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois. So, Anthony Joshua sort of addressed what had happened during the face-off between him and Dubois. He said, well, one of the things that you can't do is give an inch because they're going to take a mile. So, in other words, the way that Daniel Dubois said something to the effect of, well, you know what? Guys, that obviously this matchup was predicated on the fact that take a look at what Daniel Dubois had done against Alexander Usyk. Because going into this fight, there's a lot of people that were saying, well, you know what? It was not a 50-50 fight at all. Guess what I have on the thumbnail of this particular video? It literally says 50-50. And there was a reason why I wrote 50-50 on the thumbnail of the video that I had made predicting right after the press conference. Because I had known that, you know what? This fight is a heavyweight fight, number one. Anthony Joshua has been chinned quite a few times. He's vulnerable in that sense. I got to tell you, the first round, at all throughout the first and the second and third round, it started giving me Andy Ruiz vibes. The first fight in New York. Those were the type of vibes that it gave me. By the way, guys, shout outs to Zane Musa Boxing Dosage, my man right here from England. Shout outs to him. Like and subscribe on his channel, just like you like and subscribe on my channel, because we are going to drop some of the hottest contents in mixed martial arts, in boxing, and combat sports worldwide. And thank you for all those that have tapped in with me all the way from England, all the way from New Zealand, all the way from South Africa, all the way from Brazil, and even all the way down to Vietnam. So let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's understand that this is great for boxing, right? What is boxing really all about by the end of the day? It is really all about opportunity. But first, let's get to that video. Let's finish that off right before we get to the analysis of the entire card. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, shout outs to these guys right here. The stream is going to continue. I'm going to play this video right here. I will be right back. To be a plane crash that had happened in this area I think that it was an emergency landing that they were looking to do, and this was the closest field that this particular plane was able to land on. So as a result, this is what happened. They crashed. They were, I believe, upside down as they were found by the first responders here. So as a consequence to this, this is what they are doing right now. They are, I believe, examining the plane, taking the plane to some sort of tow truck and taking it somewhere, which I believe they're going to mount on top of that pickup truck right there. And as you can see right here, here are the firefighters of West Sacramento, while also the police, I believe, were here earlier. Obviously, there's one police officer right there sitting at the in the back of the truck, if you noticed. And yes, this is just a few hours before the Anthony Joshua versus Dubois press conference, which, by the way, I am covering all throughout the week. Also, the fight that is going on this Saturday between them, which I think is going to be an absolute epic clash. Just like this right here, it was an epic crash. Hopefully, nobody got hurt, but this is the news that we have in front of you right now. And we're going to continue to cover this while we are going to discuss the press conference between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois. So, Anthony Joshua sort of addressed what had happened during the face off between him and Dubois. He said, well, one of the things that you can't do is give an inch because they're going to take a mile. So, in other words, the way that Daniel Dubois said something to the effect of, well, you know what? We can just do it right now. We can just fight right here, right now. So, as a result of that, he just decided to get up and he was ready to basically street fight with him right then and there. So if you, those of you that are wondering right now, why am I talking about a fight boxing press conference when there is a plane crash right in front of me? Well, I'll tell you why. For the simple fact that this is the most epic mixed martial arts channel in the history of mankind, right? So I saw content that I believe it was important to sort of shoot and put on the channel, and here it is. You don't get content like this. Now, of course, I hope that nobody got hurt. Nobody wishes for anybody to get hurt, but we are in the business of news. We are in the business of putting out content, and this is the content we have for you right here, right now. As we reacted to Anthony Joshua's press conference versus Daniel Dubois. So I'll tell you, how do I see that fight going on? I will tell you right now. The way that I see that fight going on, I just think that Anthony Joshua has way too much experience in order for him to lose this fight against Daniel Dubois. What I also do see in this fight is the body shots of Daniel Dubois, which, by the way, you can never truly underestimate. And as a result of that, look out for him to get close range because obviously between him and Anthony Joshua, maybe Anthony Joshua is a little bit taller, 6'6" versus 6'5", maybe even 6'4" at best for Daniel Dubois. Nonetheless, he's the shorter fighter, longer reach goes to Anthony Joshua, and that is just going to lend itself into a firefight. Of course, not much taller, so there are going to be moments where Dubois is going to use long distance range, but not better than Anthony Joshua. And that is where he is going to try to implement those body shots and try to hurt him. By the way, the same way that he hurt Usyk, obviously that fight had a lot of controversy considering the fact that, well, it was considered a low blow. Many people thought that Daniel Dubois should have won, and many people, in many people's eyes, believe that he is the best heavyweight in the world right now, which, by the way, which ultimately makes this fight even more intriguing as it is, because we know that Usyk beat Anthony Joshua, but there is a good reason to believe that Dubois actually beat But yes, we are back once again. Shout out to No Chill MMA for tapping in. Zane Musa Boxing. Yes, come on in anytime. Let me see if I can get a link here to invite you right in. So we're going to get right to it and we're going to talk about this entire card. By the way that this whole entire card was looking up until the end of the night was that it looked like everybody was going to go to a decision, right? The first fight with Chamberlain and that Padley guy. That right there was, yeah, a decision. The next fight after that was a decision. A whole bunch of these other fights was decisions. So until we got to Hamza Shiraz, and then we realize, all right, there is no decision here. You know, this is yeah, man, this is straight excuse me, absolute massacre. And with Anthony Joshua, look, in the first round, I mean, like, come on, man. In the first round, it was already a straight indication that this fight was not going to go too well for Anthony Joshua, and it didn't, unfortunately. So the third round, you sort of started really seeing that, man, at any time, Dubois is going to finish this. But every now and then, Anthony Joshua was getting there, sort of using his savvy veteran uh, experience to basically prevent him from finishing him a lot quicker. And obviously, in the fifth round, he just couldn't stand up from there. There was that one shot that Anthony Joshua hit him with, but man, credit to him. He went out like a warrior. Let's just be real about that, right? You know, the dude went out like a straight up warrior. Okay. Zane, if you're anywhere out there right now, I sent you the link on Facebook. Come right on in and let's talk about this. So we got about 8 people on live right now. We're going to tap in with our man Zane Musa Boxing Dosage. By the way, why this is a treat is because Zane is tapped in with uh Hamza Shiraz, which is a co-main event. And that right there, I think we're going to have some interesting topics and conversations to talk about that. Look, so the common theme that I noticed with Frank Warren in comparison to Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn likes to recruit Olympians. Frank Warren likes to recruit guys that are from the streets that really haven't proven themselves in the amateur ranks. But let's just be honest, guys. Amateur and pro are two different sports. Let's just be real about that. They are two completely different sports. Because in the pros, it is really all about if you can hurt the guy. Now, is it a fact that Anthony Joshua is a better amateur fighter than, let's say, in Daniel Dubois? Of course he is. A way better amateur fighter than Daniel Dubois. But what is the difference between amateur and pro? The difference is how bad you can hurt the other guy and how well you can implement your athletic ability in this pro setting where it's not so point savvy or technical minded or anything like that. It's straight to the point of really trying to hurt you. And judging by this picture right here, in the way that Daniel Dubois had put it on Anthony Joshua the whole entire night, it showed that he was the better pro. Fifth round, he finished him. So what does this say about Anthony Joshua? Is he finished? Is he done? Or does he have other fights left in his tank? Now, here's the thing. If he still has fights left in his tank, is this just indicative of the competitive nature that we have in the heavyweight division? Because a lot of people, most times, are going to constantly yell out the low-hanging fruit argument of, oh, he's a bum. The guy is no good anymore. Let's move on to the next guy. Dubois is the next guy. Little did we forget that Dubois was also the guy that got slept by Joyce. Now, obviously, he was also called a quitter in that fight, just like how many of you called Anthony Joshua a quitter in that fight. And I got to tell you, man, they say that in the UK, the British are a whole lot harsher to people that are one of their own. In other words, they build you up only to knock you back down into the lowest common denominator. They've done it with Ricky Hatton. They've done it with Amir Khan. They've done it with Anthony Joshua plenty of times, and are doing it with him now after this defeat from Daniel Dubois. They've done it to Daniel Dubois, and now here comes Daniel Dubois once again in their great, good graces once again. So the entire shifting of the British public's opinion is just that. It's fair weather. So that's what we have going on in this situation right now. Mark Chamberlain, by the way, the guy that fought Padley, which was the first fight of the night, that was Turki El-Sheikh's favorite fighter. And for the same reason that I sort of saw Anthony Joshua in the main event, he's the type of fighter that, I mean, look, if it's a situation where you got to fight, kill or be killed, you're going to fight that way. And just like any seasoned boxer, I'm sure they're going to fight in a very technical matter if they need to in order to win in a way that, let's say, Anthony Joshua did when he fought Andy Ruiz for the second time. Right? Now, with Anthony Joshua, did he do any of that here? No, he fought with heart, grits, and determination. Because every time Daniel Dubois came at him, it was like as if he had something to prove. And I think this goes back to the face-off that they had going on where he threatened to throw a chair at Daniel Dubois. Now, why would he do that? Why would he threaten to throw a chair at Anthony Joshua? What was his reason? Is it out of insecurity? Is it just because of the fact that he knows he can't beat him? Now, he already knows that he's going to fight him in the next coming days. What would have been the point of doing that? Once again, man, I think that Anthony Joshua really needs to rethink his career this time because he's now sort of pressing into the door of Alistair Overeem. And for those of you that have watched MMA over the years and know anything about Alistair Overeem, guess what? This dude right here has been knocked out several times, but at the same time, he gets back up again. Now, I know that sounds catchy for a 90s rock song, but understand this. Your career and how that's going to affect you negatively along the way and your overall quality of life is something that you need to think about moving forward, just from a humanistic side and a humanistic point of view of things. This is what Anthony Joshua has to think about. Never mind boxing, never mind the aspects of competitive glory and whatnot. There's just a lot bigger things in life that are at stake now, which is your health. Never mind your legacy. I think that his legacy is already intact. I think it's fair to say that, right? Anthony Joshua's legacy will forever remain intact, so on and so forth. And I just don't think that I don't think that taking on dangerous fights like this is good. Like, look, make a comeback with, let's say, against a journeyman, ride out into the sunset, just like what Prince Nassim did. And that's it. But I think there are other people that Anthony Joshua could fight, just not at the top level. And this is something that I think a lot of people have to be very careful about when they start talking all this. Oh, it's retirement talk. You know how it is. Every time somebody gets slept like this in their career, everybody goes into that topic of, well, you know what, man, maybe it's time to go. No, it's not time to go. It's just time to go from the top 5. You got to adjust your competition. By the way, speaking of Conor McGregor, since he was in a crowd that night, let's get into some UFC MMA content into this topic at hand, right? So he said before that, you know what, as I get older, I'm going to adjust my competition. Similar to the way that he would reference the Masters division that they have in Jiu-Jitsu. In jiu-jitsu tournaments, let's say if you're a 50-year-old who's, let's say, a purple belt or a blue belt or something to that extent, or let's say whatever the same color belt you are, but with the same age, that's how they set you up in jiu-jitsu matches and tournaments. And so this is the reference that Conor McGregor is talking about when it comes to, let's say, adjusting your competition when you get older. That is all that I think Anthony Joshua needs to do in the coming future in terms of the people that he's going to fight. So does that mean that it's a good idea for him to fight Tyson Fury? Well, it would depend how Tyson Fury gets hurt bad from the Alexander Usyk fight. Let's say Alexander Usyk hurts Tyson Fury very badly in December. I believe it's December 21st that fight is going to happen. Is it December 21st? Yeah, December 21st. Let's say he hurts him really bad. Then you can have Tyson Fury fight Anthony Joshua under those circumstances that they are sort of in the Masters legendary division at this point now. Guys that are over their 30s on top of the high experience that they have going on, and let them fight. This is where they belong. And then the fight between Dubois and Usyk, that could be very well compelling. Because Daniel Dubois, for whatever reason, he just has that power that can take you out. And you know what? I like this. I like this because everybody gets put on notice one way or another. Everybody gets put on notice. In other words, is Usyk safe for being the top guy in the heavyweight division? No, he's not safe. You want to know why he's not safe? Because there's other guys lurking. There's Fury not too far away from him, the consummate number 2, judging by the performance that he had against him, in which that he has the ability to hurt him if he pushes the action. He has also the ability to fight him in a very methodical and technical way, which he has proven. But still, Tyson Fury is a number 2. Now here's Daniel Dubois, who did hurt Alexander Usyk, who just did this to Anthony Joshua, who, by the way, put out Francis Ngannou, the guy who hurt Tyson Fury, so on and so forth. What I present to you is a heavyweight division at its best in terms of the action pack and the reality in which at any given time these guys can beat and hurt each other. And you want to know what's even better about this? You know what all of this also reminds me of? Do you remember when George St. Pierre was asked about who the greatest of all time was? You want to know what George St. Pierre said? George St. Pierre flat out said that there is no such thing as the greatest of all time. I'm going to repeat that. There is no such thing as the greatest of all time. Now, why did George St. Pierre say this? I'm going to tell you exactly why George St. Pierre said this, because at any given time, anybody can beat anybody at any time, and it just proved it right here. Prior to this fight, there have been a lot of videos circulating around, from G-Man Boxing to Hatman Strikes to the Boxing Voice to all these different boxing channels, right? Because not only am I tapped in to the mixed martial arts channels, I'm also tapped in to some of the biggest boxing channels in the world, including Zayn Musa Boxing Dosage right here for you guys to go and check out. And by the way, unfortunately, like myself, we all got this prediction wrong. And this is why the greatest of all time doesn't exist, because at any given time, any of these guys can sleep each other. And guess what? Those stories that all those guys have been talking about with Daniel Dubois doing this to Anthony Joshua and sparring, kaboom. It's come to full circle and in real life, realizing what everybody has been saying behind closed doors. This is what we've been realizing now behind closed doors, is the fact that Daniel Dubois has a great chance of hurting Anthony Joshua. And he did. He now showed it in the fight in the same similar fashion that he was able to show that in the practice room. And you know what? Here's something that a lot of people don't understand about the fight world, right? Especially in boxing, but more so in the fight world, in just the fight game in general. The real life that you lead is not the night that you are in the cage or in the ring for 25 minutes or 30 minutes or however long you stay in there. And for Daniel Dubois, it was obviously a total of, what was that? Literally 15 minutes or so that he was in there. Not very long. I mean, 5 rounds wasn't very long. That's at most 18 to 20 minutes that he was in there. Nonetheless, that's a very short window into the reality of your life as a fighter. Your reality is the grind that you put in on the hours and hours of repetition and hours of rounds in sparring that many people out there just don't see in the real world, right? People don't see these things. Uh that is the reality of fighting. And it just so happens that at the time when Daniel Dubois felt comfortable laying it on Anthony Joshua, he was also comfortable doing it in the big lights, where, by the way, Anthony Joshua shines the best at. That's where Anthony Joshua shines the best at, is under the bright lights. But it was Daniel Dubois that was able to translate whatever it is that he's been doing quietly over the years in the ring and develop that into doing it in the live stage with the brights light and for the world watching. I mean, you had Conor McGregor there, you had Terrence Crawford, you had all these British celebrities. I believe you had one of the Spice Girls that was there, which is why they were playing one of the, I believe, the Spice Girls track to sort of hint that, hey, guess who's here? Uh, a whole bunch of other superstars from the music world. I mean, the list goes on. I probably haven't seen all the celebrities and all the people that were there that night, but it was a big card. It was a very big card, and you can only imagine that this is going to catapult Daniel Dubois into the next level. More so, Hamza Shiraz. I believe this is going to catapult him into the next level also. Now, you got to understand there's going to be naysayers out there that are going to say, well, you know what? He hasn't been tested, rightfully so. But guess what? If he's finishing these guys so early on, you got to think, how better can he possibly do, or how worse can he possibly do against guys that are, let's say, the top 160 pounders of the world? So, something to think about. Let's take a look at the rest of the card right here. All right, so let's react to this. I believe Eddie Hearn is now going to speak live to everybody. Let's hear what Eddie Hearn has to say real quick.
My advice to AJ is to not do a press conference. He wants to do a press conference. He wants to speak to you guys, so he's going to come in. He's going to talk. I'm not going to let him sit here for ages taking questions, but he's going to talk to everybody and probably go on too long. And then I'm going to kick him out. And then Ben Davison's also going to come in for your guys' questions as well. So if you want any questions with me, far away. He'll be here in a couple of minutes. Well, probably get a good kick tonight, or try. It's a difficult defeat. You know, at this point, you have to try and...
Don't forget to like and subscribe as we are reacting to Eddie Hearn live right now.
The only positives I can take is the unbelievable heart and guts and nuts that he showed to never give up. And I said in the change room, I said, you know, the amount of times I've heard over the years of fighters say, you know, I will rather get knocked out than try and survive or lose on points. I will go out on my shield. He went out on his shield. Even when he didn't have his legs, he was trying to land the right hand and he was trying to find a way back in the fight. And remarkably, as bad as he performed tonight, as many as mistakes that he made, he still could have won the fight. You know, fourth round, he hurt Dubois. Fifth round, Dubois' legs buckled. And at that point, I think this is going to be one of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen. But walked on to a crushing right hand. And unfortunately, there was no getting up from the last one. Edit. Yeah, I mean, we have a contracted fight with Riyadh season that could include the Daniel Dubois rematch. I think we need time.
There it is. That is the factor into all this, is a rematch.
Brilliant. You know, plenty of credit. He was brilliant tonight. He put the pressure on. We knew that he'd be dangerous in the early part of the fight. And the start couldn't have been worse, really. AJ will believe that he can box much better and beat him, but Dubois is going to be full of confidence. And we have to look what happens on December 21st. If Tyson Fury wins or if Tyson Fury loses. But no immediate rush. But I know what AJ's like, and he would love to have another crack at it.
Eddie,
yeah, we knew Dubois. He returns all the time when you jab, so that was something that we was looking to capitalise on. For whatever reason, things didn't get going as we'd like to in the early part of the fight. That was just one of the things that we was looking to pick up on. Obviously, there was a few other things as well, but just didn't manage to get the things that we was looking to get going early, and then a couple of things that we was looking on to capitalise on, like Eddie said at the end. There was a couple of very, very, very short spells of it, and one of those was when he managed to land that right hand, and then there was a couple of things we wanted to do to follow up moments like that, and just didn't apply it the way we'd prepared to, unfortunately. But by that point, a lot had gone on. He's not thinking straight. So, yeah, difficult, very difficult pill to swallow.
Eddie,
No, I was asking for something from him, and he sort of said, like, I'm okay, let me know he's okay, actually talking in there. And then he come back for the last round and just said to me, these are the moments that we live for, and talked about rolling the dice, and that's what he done. And like Eddie said, a lot of people talk about when they're having an off night, and that was an off night. And, I'd just like to say that me and my team have received a hell of a lot of credit for good performances that he's had. So it's important that we take responsibility for the bad performance as well. So we're willing to do that. But he spoke about rolling dice. And like I said, a lot of people talk about when things aren't going well, I'll go out on my shield. But he did that tonight. And a lot of people talk about, is he hesitant to let his hands go? He showed he's not. He let his hands go. Unfortunately, he come off with a short straw tonight. But, yeah, obviously we're very, very gutted.
Eddie, another positive 96,000 at Wembley Stadium. Sorry, Eddie. One positive from the fight. 96,000 at Wembley Stadium tonight. A lot of people would argue without Anthony Joshua, considerable amount of stadium fights wouldn't be filled the way they were. How do you reflect on the massive crowd in there to support Anthony Joshua tonight?
It was incredible, and I think Daniel Dubois deserves a lot of credit as well. I don't think he was disrespected as the champion, but he was the clear B side in the fight, and
he was absolutely disrespected as a champion. Eddie Hearn is saying that right now. Man, the people were saying that you're crazy for saying that this fight is 50-50. But guess what? It was, and let's hear Eddie Hearn now.
Me included. And actually he showed again tonight. So I took some good shots tonight. And it was only really when the fourth and fifth round come that I was thinking, actually, we could start breaking him down here. But by then, like Ben said, because of the start, it's so difficult without a clear head to actually apply the things that he's been working on. And even then, my dad messaged me. He said, wow, he said, made so many basic errors and still could have won the fight. And that's a positive to take out of it. That I said to him, you've got to be proud you even found a way back into the fight. Because after the second round, for me, the fight's done. It's over. And, people always question people's heart.
Hey, that's true. Shout outs to the heart of Anthony Joshua in this one. You can't take that away from him.
Tried another inch. And that's all you can give to people, And I think when you do that, you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I might not have been good enough tonight. But I've tried my nuts off and I gave everything. And I spoke to him last night and he said to me, I'm ready to go to the trenches tomorrow night. He went all the way in the trenches. People try to talk about taking a knee, spitting a gum shield out. Listen, when Daniel Dubois hit him in the nuts in the third or fourth round, I'm screaming at AJ to take the full 5 minutes. Like, that's actually a little bit of inexperience. Like, at that point when he couldn't stand up, he's been hit full blown in the conkers, right? All he's got to do to the ref is just, that's not him. He just went to ref, I'm fine, come on, let's go. And I'm like, no, what are you doing? And then it happened again. Because he just came to fight tonight. And, when you talk about entertainment, maybe vulnerability, but also a huge puncher that's prepared to let his hands go. It was a hell of a fight. And like I said, as gutted as we are, Daniel deserves a lot of credit because tonight was his crowning night. Not being elevated to interim champion. Tonight was the night that I believe he became a real world champion. And, he's got a big future ahead of him as well.
Eddie, obviously, AJ is going to be disappointed. He was excited to be back at Wembley in front of 96,000 people. But we'll all agree he showed so much heart tonight. How much admiration do you have for him for doing that?
Always, because I think it's not just the admiration of being in the ring, it's the admiration of how he lives his life, how consistent he is working with Ben, and the achievements that he's had in his career, the money that he's made, and he still wants it more than ever. And, I think, unless there's something Ben's not telling me or AJ's not telling me, which I know there isn't, camp was good. No excuses, well prepared, nice and confident, looked unbelievable in the changing room. I mean, punching so hard. Just had a disastrous start. And unfortunately, against a big, strong puncher, it's hard to recover. And, he nearly did. But the admiration is not just about what he did tonight. He went to deeper depths tonight than I thought he would or could, in all honesty. And that's total respect for him because it's not just hanging on. It's standing there and letting your hands go when your legs are gone.
I agree with Eddie.
Someone comes in and they lose every round. They go 12 rounds and it's a little bit of a celebration. Oh, yeah, I lost. He was like, he was either going to get knocked out or he was going to flatten Daniel Dubois. And unfortunately, it was the first one.
Eddie,
there was a bit of traffic and he did turn up slightly later than we would have planned. But being honest, he was very well prepared. We knew Daniel was going to start fast. There was nothing that shocked us in there. Oh, we didn't expect him to do that. Just whatever reason got off to a bad start. And, it's very early, coming off the back of the fight. We'll go back, we'll review what we could have done better, of course, and go from there.
Eddie,
yeah.
When it comes to Anthony Joshua, across social media, some people will look at him 34, going to be 35. There'll be talks of, is this the time to retire? What will you say to AJ in terms of his future?
Well, I mean, everyone's very fickle, aren't they? Yesterday, he's in the form of his life, never looked better. Wow, this is unbelievable, this new resurgence. As a bad start,
AJ has just walked into the building right now. At the advice of Eddie Hearn to not do it, he walked into the press conference room right now. Daniel Dubois has just done his press conference, and yeah.
Frank was talking about Hagler Hearns. I mean, it takes a lot of beating that kind of fight, but it was a thriller. And, we just felt that maybe the tide was about to change, but you have to give Daniel credit. I'm going to pass the mic to AJ. I've explained you wanted to come and do this. I told you not to, but you always do it. We're not going to take questions, but you wanted to say a few words.
Firstly, always water your head high. We took a shot at success and we came up short, unfortunately. We rolled the dice, man, for the third time. That's 13 world title fights. Not everyone's been successful, but everyone's been fun and entertaining. We're trying to create history for British boxing, and I think we're doing that. And also, I appreciate all the press, media. The fans aren't here, but I thank them through you guys. I'm sure you guys will let them know that we're appreciating their support. And probably you're asking, do I still want to continue fighting? Of course I want to continue fighting. That's what I said is, we took a shot at success and we came up short. And what does that mean now? We're going to run away. We're going to live to fight another day. And that's what I'm a warrior. And also, before I finish, we have to give credit to our opponent as well, Daniel. Even though when I sign up to fight opponents, I don't really like him in my head anymore. But now it's done. I take my hat off to him and say, well done, Tim and his team. And also thank you to my team as well for the way they prepared me. There was a few mistakes in there, but that's the name of the game. Fine margins can cost you at the top level. So thank you. That was good. That was good?
Yeah.
Thank you guys again. Much appreciated.
We want to stay. I told you. Thanks, AJ. Guys, carry on if you.
Ben, question to you. If there is a rematch, if you're in his corner for said rematch.
Yeah, so I wanted to add just a little bit on that, right? I think that was the right idea that Anthony Joshua has. Just because you take a loss like this, it doesn't mean that you're done. Like I said, I've referenced you guys Alistair Overeem in MMA and in kickboxing. He's been slept so many times and he came back and still had some great performances. Anthony Joshua is no different than that. Okay, so back to the press conference.
Of course, now we have that fight to look at. Of course, I already know there's a couple of things that adjustments that could when situations occur, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So perhaps some of the ways that we was looking to skin that cat, maybe there's some better options of how to try and tackle those scenarios and situations. So yeah, of course, we'll be straight at looking at reviewing that.
Yeah, so as we're still reacting to Ben Davison and Eddie Hearn taking questions, I just wanted to add this, right? Yes, it is important to understand that taking a loss in boxing should not be indicative of, oh, well, this guy is not worth watching, because obviously they are, right? This fight right here is worth it because of the past infractions or struggles that they've had. Look at Daniel Dubois being accused of a quitter. Look at Anthony Joshua being accused of a quitter. And both of these guys did something both in common, which is what? Persevere, come back, and have great moments again. So just because a person has 3 or 4 losses in this particular matter, it doesn't mean that they can't come back and redeem those losses and bounce back from it in a way that we've seen from many fighters in the past, especially in MMA. Now more so being prominent in the world of boxing, because obviously it's a lot more lucrative now, being that Turki El-Sheikh is making those fights possible and creating this culture of, you know what, it's okay as long as you give the fans exactly what they were looking for, which is a barn burner of a fight. But I also think that's not the most smart way of having a longevity in your career, but that's neither here or there. Different conversation for a different topic. Back to the press conference.
So you've been here before with Anthony, building him back up after defeats, but just the manner of the defeat tonight, that's the first time I think we've seen him really hurt at the end of a fight. Would that concern you?
Yeah, I think to be honest with you, it's probably the only time in his whole career I've seen him really hurt. So it's not bad, having won 2 World Heavyweight Championships, 13 World Championship fights, and that's the only time he's really been hurt to a point where he couldn't get up. Do you know what I mean? Heavyweights get knocked out all the time, and you never want to see a heavyweight get knocked out, but it is the first time in his career he's been properly hurt. So you never want to see it, and you never want to carry on too long. But at the same time, AJ is a heavyweight that doesn't actually have many miles on the clock, in all honesty. And, the moment that Ben comes to me and says, just doesn't look the same fighter anymore. And by the way, AJ is the one that will call that shot before anyone. Fighters sometimes need saving from themselves. AJ's a smart guy. He's got a big team of people around him. We all know that we've seen the best AJ over the last year. So, it's difficult to say just because he got chinned tonight, well, that's it, But, of course, he's in the closing chapters of his career. There's no doubt about that. And now, obviously, we have another fight with Riyadh Season. and Turki Al-Sheikh. And Daniel Dubois is part of that plan. But so too could be Tyson Fury or another heavyweight.
There's another thing that I wanted to mention, the rematch. We're going to talk about the rematch at the end of this press conference reaction right here. We're going to talk about the rematch at the end of this press conference. Stay tuned. Like and subscribe.
That was incredibly entertaining, albeit you don't want to see your fighter get beat like that. But our interests are to make sure that he leaves this sport with legacy, with a huge amount of money in the bank, but also with his health intact. And, if you start getting knocked out like that, you certainly have to look at it. But really the first time in his career when he hasn't been able to get off the deck. And there's been many times he's been down and never not tried to get up. But that one was just a shot. When you try and land an uppercut and you get caught trading by a huge right hand, it doesn't matter who you are, you get knocked out. Unfortunately, it happened with a lot of damage on the clock. And that's perhaps why it ended the way it did.
Yeah, well, you go into a fight with knowing the tendencies of the opponent through previous fights of his, and then during the course of the fight, certain tendencies might stand out more. For example, when you do this, he's often doing that. This is how you deal with that situation. So we're trying to, but when you get off to a bad start like that, at the same time we were trying to, situations were occurring that we didn't want to happen. So we're trying to deal with those situations. This is the best way to deal with that. And then, this is the best way to deal with that situation in a safety first manner. And then these are situations where, you might take a risk on this. This situation keeps happening. You're going to have to be ballsy in this situation. And he did that. And there was a couple of shots that he landed when he did do those things and settled things down or hurt Daniel. And then the application after that wasn't quite what we was looking for. So, but this is heavyweight boxing, these things happen. Doesn't mean that it's okay. Doesn't mean that it's fine. Doesn't mean that we're not going to go back and say, look, we need to do this better, or this is a situation that we need to look at and review. But we're well aware, and he went out on his shield, and that's all you can ask for.
Then I spoke to Usyk, and he basically said AJ was in the pocket for too long, and his right hand was too low, and he was leaning back rather than taking a step back. He said that was the reason why he kept taking the right hands.
Yeah, his feet were lagging a little bit. He wasn't as sharp on his feet. That was something that we spoke about. We wanted him to defend with his feet first in situations when Daniel was rushing in, or drop and tie up. We didn't want him to sit there, catch him for too long. No, Daniel was heavy-handed, not a smart approach. And of course, didn't want him getting caught, not being ready and unaware. And those things unfortunately happened.
Eddie, AJ has had setbacks before that he's overcome. Do you see this one being any different? How do you make sure that he gets through this?
I mean, because I know he'll be consistent, and I think the key now is to make sure to win an Olympic gold medal, a World Championship silver, where he actually got robbed in, a British title, a Commonwealth title, a world title, completely transformed British boxing to a place that we never believed it would ever be. To carry himself in such a way that, you know, just inspires the next generation, that generates grassroots boxing, saved all the gyms in lockdown, invested his own money into the gyms in lockdown, goes to Finchley ABC, stands out there all night talking to the kids, wins a second world heavyweight title, sells out 96,000 at Wembley, trying to win a third world title against a young kid that can really punch and is really dangerous. I mean, this is legacy beyond just Fury and Wilder. For sure, you know, it would have been great to take those fights. But what he has done will never, ever be repeated. Not necessarily in the ring, but the way he's carried himself and the way he's transformed the sport, we're all beneficiaries of it, aren't we? You, me, for sure, Ben, all of us in here. And tonight wouldn't be happening without Anthony Joshua, because we wouldn't have reached this stage. He transformed the heavyweight division in this country. He made stadium fights a thing of the norm. So Anthony's legacy will live on in the gyms. It will live on at Team GB, and it will live on throughout British boxing. So Wilder, Fury, yeah, unlucky. You know, who knows what's going to happen in the future, but it's done. We should be celebrating his achievements. We should be celebrating the fact that he's a bloody good bloke. And he's now proven that he's got a massive set of cojones on him. And he's willing to go out on his shield. And if tonight was the last one, which I don't believe it will be, or if the next one's the last one, let's enjoy it, give him respect, and know that nights like tonight, he's responsible for. And we owe him a huge amount.
Eddie, I'm over here. Been waiting patiently. Listen, I want to keep it positive, right? Because being ex-fighters, seeing what you've done for boxing the last 10 years and what you've done for Anthony, could you have even imagined at the start of the journey with Anthony that you would have got to these heights? And in your own words, could you explain to us how proud of you are?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Anthony came out there. I remember watching Anthony in the final of the Olympics, and I was half thinking, please don't win, because it's going to cost me a fortune if you win this gold medal. And he did, and he came into the office, and I was just fascinated by the way he carried himself. And I thought, wow, we've got a real chance here to have a star that we've never seen before in the sport. And if you look at great fighters like Calzaghe and Naz and Eubank, none of them inspired the younger generation to go and get themselves fit or follow their dreams or start in amateur boxing clubs. There's never been a fighter like that before. And, you know, I remember his debut against Emmanuel Elia. You have to remember that.
That is so true. Anthony Joshua is like the absolute Captain Britain positivity, Mr. John Cena character.
The ability to be in those fights. And it's actually, he's evolved as a fighter. And sometimes you come up against different styles that are harder to, you know, to deal with. And tonight may be one of those as well. But like when he was putting it all on the line against Klitschko and these guys, he was just rolling the dice every time. So I'm actually more proud of him tonight than I've probably ever been in his career before. Because when you've got a guy who hasn't got his legs and he's just holding his feet, letting right hands go. And, you know, that moment, and I know it was only 10 seconds, 15 seconds in the fifth round. You know, maybe in my deluded mind, I'm thinking he's going to do it. And this is going to be the greatest comeback I've ever seen. And then disaster, you get caught trading and but again, you get knocked out like that. When he got knocked out, he was going for the kill to end the fight. He wasn't backing up, trying to cover up, trying to hold, trying to survive. He went out to try and knock out Daniel Dubois and walked onto a right hand. Couldn't be prouder. And gave it everything tonight. And that's fine. And that's why when we talk about the Ruiz defeat, people will never really know about the Ruiz defeat because he'll never talk about it. But the reality is, tonight was one you can take on the chin. Ruiz was one, I can't believe we lost that. Shouldn't have lost that fight. Tonight was like, beaten by the better man, you gave it everything. What a great fight. Sport. So the defeat is never easy, but it softens the blow very slightly.
All right. Well, Eddie Hearn giving some coping messages there of the agony and defeat.
Yeah, I believe he can beat Daniel Dubois. You know, but he's got to get it right. If he fights like that again, he won't beat Daniel Dubois. If he fights like he should do and can do, he can beat him. But
he could beat him if he fights him in the same way he fought Andy Ruiz the second time around.
So he's up against it. So, you know, I think that at this stage, I know what will be in Anthony's mind. Probably the World Championship will, you know, I feel like the World Championship meant a little bit more to him this time around. But I feel like moving forward, it will just be, give me the biggest fights. And then if you get beat again, then you're going to have a tough decision to make. But he'll always want to win the world title. But I think he'll just want the biggest fights that are out there in 2025.
What do you want?
Want him to be happy. Said it after the Usyk fight, didn't I? Same thing. And I've seen his happiness turn around a lot, particularly since he started working with Ben. You know, I mean, AJ's always been searching, you know, at GB, improve here, bring this person in, bring this person, move his entire life to America, go with Derek James.
That is one thing that I will credit Anthony Joshua for, is that he definitely knows how to be humble enough to make changes in his career. For example, he's brought in some Navy SEALs from his Under Armour connection in order to get him mentally prepared for the Andy Ruiz rematch. He's also brought in people from British wrestling backgrounds, Olympic British wrestling backgrounds, to work on clinches that he uses in boxing. So Anthony Joshua, man, he's a very well-rounded, very well-grounded individual at that, regardless of all the other controversies that come along with it.
But part of him will go, fucking hell, we went to war last night. And he really did. So I hope he gets the respect that, as I say, when he got chinned, he was trying to close the show and knock out Daniel Dubois. And not many people do that when they've been down 3 times and have no legs. Never stop trying to win.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thanks for
you
your
for a
attendance.
phenomenal night. Thank you for all your support. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.
All right. So that right there concludes the press conference right there. Obviously, Daniel Dubois was also on earlier tonight. We didn't catch that one. Let me play that one before. Well, you know what? Before we get into that, let me just say that I want you guys to know that there is a rematch clause into this fight. Now, how is this going to go about? Well, it can go two ways. Number one, it can devastatingly end the career of Anthony Joshua in the same similar way that you saw with David Haye when he fought Bellew twice, and the second time around literally ended his career. You could see something similar to that, or you can see a different world where, let's say, Anthony Joshua wins, or he was supposed to win tonight in the way that he should have won, which is by sticking to a jab, keeping his distance, and not allowing Daniel Dubois to get off with his jab. Because for a guy that's short, or that is the shorter fighter in this one, Daniel Dubois had the better jab, and for whatever reason, that jab just seemed like a much harder punch than, let's say, the jab of Anthony Joshua, and he led with it, in which basically he was able to rock Anthony Joshua's head back quite a few times in order for him to be the successful one when it came to the exchanges of the two, especially within the jab ranges, let alone the ranges where they get in close range and start hooking off on each other. So Anthony Joshua has to fight a very technical rematch in the same way that he did against Andy Ruiz in order for him to win this one. Do you think he's going to do it? Yes. Why did he not do it in this one? For whatever reason, and with good reason. Maybe it had something to do with the press conference and trying to live up to the expectations of being a tough guy. Anthony Joshua decided, you know what? I'm going to go bang with this guy. Forget boxing, forget being technical, forget skills that I've accumulated over the years and all throughout the Olympics. I'm going to go blood and guts with this guy. And so he did. But unfortunately, sometimes some guys are just better at you when it comes to blood and guts. Andy Ruiz was obviously better in those exchanges. Daniel Dubois was better in those exchanges tonight. Now, is it just because they're the stronger fighter, the physically stronger and, let's say, more durable fighter? Is that the reason why, let's say, Anthony Joshua could not get away with going hook for hook with Daniel Dubois in that kind of way? Maybe that's what it is. Or maybe he was just at the right place at the right time. But a rematch, I got to be honest with you, is not really that far-fetched for Anthony Joshua to win. Because we've already thought that Anthony Joshua was going to win this off the bat. But the reality is, it was a 50-50 fight, just like what I had mentioned in my prediction. So let's hear what Daniel Dubois has to say here, because that was the part of the press conference we did not get to. So let's hear what he has to say right here. Post-fight interview with Daniel Dubois. Here we go. Daniel Dubois right here.
I hit the Tacoma clubs and I was like,
All right, here's Daniel Dubois.
Okay. Questions? Let's go.
Yeah, I feel great. You know, did what we need to do, did what we came to do, and we got the job done. I'm just over the moon, and I thank God, I thank my family, thank my father for getting me through this and getting me to this point, and I'm just glad that I done it. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Tell him. Yeah. No, it wasn't going to be the night tonight, you know, by any means necessary. Yeah. Close that door. Yeah. Yeah, they all were saying I was going to get knocked out, and we all saw we got knocked out, and you know, I done the business, and I'm just, you know, I was glad I proved everyone wrong, but this is the start of my journey. This is the start for me. Yeah, they're my targets now. They, you know, these are. I want to get my rematch and, you know, put the wrong right, and you know, God bless and just come through it. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, they all doubted me, but you know, the Lord had my back tonight, and you know, my family around me, so I wasn't going to be denied. He could have thrown everything at me. I would have come through it, and you know, that's that's all I have to say. Mic drop. Yeah, 4 fights. It was just a growing process for me, a growing journey. To me, tonight didn't even. It felt almost like a dream tonight in the ring, and I just had to seize the moment. So, you know, I thank my dad, I thank my, you know, God and my whole family for being around me and just keeping me grounded and, you know, giving me this opportunity. And I took it with both hands tonight. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like a dream. It's almost like a dream, but yeah, it would just true. Yeah. 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 We. Yeah. I'm calm anyway. Cool, calm, collective. Yeah. That's it.
Sorry, say again.
So far, a lot of what I'm gathering from the presser with Daniel Dubois is that a lot of people have doubted him going into this fight, and he is just glad and over the moon that he is showing everybody the opposite of what many people had perceived him to have been the underdog in this fight. So moving back to the presser.
See Daniel lacing up against Usyk again, because I believe that he should have won that fight, and I still believe it wasn't a low blow, and he's shown what he's all about.
Matt Lennon for Boxing Social. Daniel, you've been on one hell of a ride. It's been noted, everyone's questions. What was that turning point for you after the Usyk? Was there a specific moment in camp where you just went, you know what, I know what's going to happen here, and still had confidence to go on and do what you've done tonight and create history?
Chats, didn't we? Go on. We talked after the fight. We had a talk, and I'm still saying that it's a fight that he could have won. I genuinely believe that. I'm not going to go along. I argue again about low blow. We're living the moment now. The moment we're in.
Now, that is something we all have to take into consideration, right? His performance at the Usyk fight really should have been indicative of how he was going to do in this fight.
I felt day one that this was a winnable fight for him, and he went out and with a game plan of putting him on the back foot. And as I said at the time, whoever goes on the back foot in this fight, they're going to get beat. And he did that and stamped his authority on the fight from the first round. And it was an exciting fight. And I think it was as a heavyweight fight. It was a shootout at the end because Daniel got clipped. You know, you got to take your hat to AJ. He came back and he threw a big punch and caught him. it became a shootout, and he'd done it with a counter, and it was our Hagler Hearns moment. It was so exciting, and as I said, you go in there, and because he's the nation's favourite, they cheered him, cheered AJ going in, but I said they'll cheer him when he comes out, Daniel with a belt. That's exactly what the crowd did.
Daniel,
They
you said
see
before.
it, they know what he is.
Sorry, Frank. Daniel, you said before the fight that you needed to win tonight to prove to everyone you were a legitimate and to feel like a legitimate world champion. So has that sunk in that you are now a world champion? How does it feel?
Yeah, definitely. It does. It feels great. I feel like the champ. And then, I want to keep this belt, just keep this train running. It's great.
Do you still dream of next year perhaps having a shot at undisputed?
For sure, yeah. Get that, right that wrong, and get back, and just fulfill my full potential now.
Frank, Riyadh season has hosting a huge number of fights, a huge historical fight. One of them it was today. What do you think about it?
What do I think about
Riyadh
this
season? Yes.
This fight, the Riyadh season.
Yes.
I've got to be honest. For all of us, everybody involved in boxing and sport, it's been brilliant. It's not even a year, is it? The first one was last October, which was Tyson, and it's just gone from strength to strength. It's changed the whole dynamic of boxing. It's enabled us to make some fights that we'd never been able to make, and undercards, phenomenal undercards that were.
And that's something that we really have to take into consideration, right? Not only have the Saudis been able to make these fights that needed to be made, they've also created a strong undercard, which, by the way, only creates bigger stars in the future. Back to Frank Warren.
Sites, it's just been fantastic, and I generally feel that. And I read some of the negative stuff a couple of the leading writers wrote about this, and I find it amazing. Some of the ways he wants to kick it. This for our sport, it's just been absolutely brilliant.
Daniel, has it sunk in yet? And what does the future look like for you?
Yeah, it's sunk in. I knew it was my night tonight. My dad and everyone behind me pushing me on, and it was my night tonight. I wasn't going to be denied, and still. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Daniel.
All right, so we're going to pause this presser real quick. We're going to go over the entire card first before we go back to Daniel Dubois. So obviously with Hamza Shiraz and Tyler Denny, that was a second-round knockout right there. He could have finished that fight a whole lot sooner, right? Within the first 30 seconds, I was so surprised that out of nowhere, he was able to just do that to Tyler Denny. But you know what? That's when I realized this kid is on a whole nother different level, and he proved it with this fight right here. Finished him off with a hook combination. Joshua Buatsi and Willie Hutchinson. A few times Willie Hutchinson, I believe, got a point taken away somewhere in between the mid rounds, and one referee or one judge had it where he, I believe, was the winner in a split decision. So either way, Joshua Buatsi won. The right man won, but at the same time, controversial with one of the judges in his scorecard nonetheless. Anthony Kakasi versus Josh Warrington. The Irishman wins 12-round decision against Josh Warrington. Not much of a surprise there. I knew that his height would be the difference in this one, and so it did. Josh Kelly and Ishmael Davis. Josh Kelly did exactly what Josh Kelly does, but Ishmael Davis showed that he belonged in this particular world level. If that is, let's say, Josh Kelly becomes world level tomorrow, then you can definitely say that, you know what, Ishmael Davis belongs up there. Just a great story behind him. Obviously came off of prison in the UK, started boxing because of that, and eventually made a life for himself in boxing. Man, let me tell you, everybody won in this card tonight, even though they lost. That's the best way to put it. Josh Padley versus Mark Chamberlain. Mark Chamberlain was the favorite of Turki El-Sheikh, right? Says that he's a very exciting fighter, somebody that he wanted to feature in his card, so he did. puts him up against in a tough matchup against Josh Padley, gets a decision. The first 1, 2, 3, 4 fights were literally by decision. That was until the main event and co-main event, which absolutely delivered stunning knockouts way before the mid-round, and that was all that she wrote. So back to Daniel Dubois on this press conference right here.
No one's done that to AJ like that, have they? Nobody's done it. Daniel, this man's got phenomenal power in both hands. He's got a great chin himself. Because AJ caught him with a couple of good shots, a really good right hand. He caught him with a good uppercut.
Yeah.
He caught him some great shot. He took him. He's got a good chin, a very good chin. He gritted his teeth, came through it, and done it with a counter. So for me, it's been. I like to be. You know, we started this journey together. The team, you know, with his dad, family, and it's coming to fruition. You know, Don's done a fabulous job as you know, as his trainer, as his lead trainer. I mean, I take my hat off to him what he's accomplished. He deserves every moment of it. It's just been a great ride, and it's going to get better and better because there's some brilliant fights to be made. And he's a young man. He's a young man, 27 now. That's young for a heavyweight, 27 years of age. And you look at the guys that are there now. Some brilliant fights to be made. Some brilliant fights.
Daniel, gunman boxing, you laid him out like a picnic blanket. Did you know that from your early spars and your infamous spars with Joshua that you were going to be the power puncher in this fight?
I just knew tonight that this was my moment. I wasn't going to be denied. And, you know, I thank the whole team. I thank my whole family for getting me through this and keeping me mentally strong and, you know, ready on it. You know,
with you all the way.
Yeah, definitely.
But could you mind if we just do 3 more questions because he wants to get off and obviously the family get away.
Frank, that's one on ITV News. Frank, I know you're a historian of boxing. Where will this particular fight weigh up in the annuals of time?
Where will this fight go? 96,000 people at Wembley. Go and ask them what their memory is going to be of this. It was a fabulous, fabulous fight, and I do feel it was our heavyweight version of Hearn's, the way, especially towards at the end when they were both catching each other. It was just unbelievable. They took some big shots in there before it all ended, and I thought, I'll tell you something. It weren't just about the punches. Daniel's jab is superb. He has a superb jab, and that was the key to winning this fight. I put him on the back foot with that jab, and that's what he set out to do, and that's what he did.
And Frank, you said you've been there at the start of Daniel's journey across the small arenas to the big shows to the 96,000 at Wembley. Just how proud are you of his journey and what he achieved tonight?
I'm extremely proud of him because I believed in him. I believed him in, you know, and when you had some people, some of the things they said, especially after the fight he had with Joe Joyce, when he had 4 fractures of his eye socket and was told that he had gone on, the retina would have come apart, and we wouldn't be here tonight. So it's very easy for some people on the safe side of the ropes to say what they say, but for me, he showed his character certainly in his last 3 fights. He's had to grit his teeth like you cannot believe against. We've had, was it 3 undefeated fighters and AJ, the nation's favourite, going in. And all these fights, the last 4 fights, 4 fights in 4 years, an underdog according to the press and according to the bookmakers in every single fight. It was underdog in all of them.
Daniel, first of all, congratulations. Frank said there about the fact that you were clipped a few times by AJ. What did you make of his power and how was it compared to what you were anticipating?
Yeah, you know what? He couldn't keep me down. He was going to have to nail me to that canvas. I was just unstoppable tonight, and you know, it was a good firefight in there. And I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole moment, winning and coming through that, and you know, fulfilling my potential tonight anyway. So yeah, on we go.
And we know that you're close to your dad, and we saw a video go out already of you two embracing in the changing room afterwards. What did he say to you in that moment?
You know what? He's just proud of me and just, you know, proud of the whole team effort. My dad especially pushing me and keeping me on the right track. As you talk sports, Daniel, congratulations. And we all know early on in your career, you got some unfair critics about, not being able to handle it when the going gets tough. We know you've dispelled those rumors, and when the going gets tough, you get going. Do you think that was ever a thing, and has it been something that you had to work on, or was it all a myth all along, and you've always had that in you? No, tonight I became Daniel in the Lions Den, and I had to come through that. I was unstoppable tonight, and I was on a roll, and the Lord was with me, and I just come through it. Dynamite Dan.
All right. So that right there is the new face of British boxing. And I'm going to tell you why that's significant. Look, most times in British culture, they build you up to knock you back down. Well, guess what? Daniel Dubois has already been knocked back down. Okay. Anthony Joshua, you heard it from Frank Warren. He said that he is the country's favorite and has been. And I think that the Olympics has a lot to do with that because they have a system in which they bring guys through that. And with that, afterwards, they get the clout of, let's say, superstardom. They get sponsorships, so on and so forth. Anthony Joshua was able to benefit from all that. But what about guys like Daniel Dubois that never really came up through the ranks in that kind of matter, but had to, let's say, go through the pros in a very tough and very different matter than, let's say, other fighters out there, right? That were given opportunities and sponsorships the way that Olympic athletes would. So I think this is a different era and a different change in the world of combat sports and in particular British boxing. Because number one, right, they usually say that heavyweights are a little bit older or this and that. Well, Dubois is 27 years old. And how about Tom Aspinall in the UFC side? He's not even 30 years old yet. So you got a lot of young heavyweights coming up in the UK. And right now it is Daniel Dubois and Tom Aspinall as the two top British fighters in that part of the world. So very interesting to say the least that we have going on with this particular card. Again, a great night of fights. I'm going to go on for another, let's say, 15 minutes or so just to keep this going, keep this rolling, get some content going. And then we're going to call it quits after the 2 hour mark. So, not a lot of people believed in Daniel Dubois in this. That's the next segment that we're going to talk about. Why didn't a lot of people believe in Daniel Dubois? Well, for the simple fact that it was AJ that was coming off of a hot streak. First of all, the recency bias of how vicious Anthony Joshua looked against somebody like Francis Ngannou. Now, look, I know it's a common thing to say, oh, well, he's not a real boxer or this and not. Yeah, but you know what? Anthony Joshua took on somebody that was a hard puncher, but not a seasoned boxer. And as a result, it was a little bit easier. And he may have thought that going into this fight with Daniel Dubois, that he was going to face the same exact thing. A guy that was a puncher, but didn't have the technical skills that he thought he would have had over Dubois. Either that, or I think there is a part of Anthony Joshua that remembers those sparring sessions and made him think to himself, you know what? I'm back at this spot again. Because for any guy out there that's been in jujitsu gyms, that's been in boxing gyms, that's sparred, that has rolled around with different people, that has trained with different people, you know that there is always that one guy that always has your number and you know exactly what he's going to do to you if you two are partnered up in class or in sparring sessions or training sessions. Sorry about that. As I was rudely interrupted by my technical difficulties, I was merely talking about how if you are in jujitsu gyms or boxing gyms, or you spar or train with different people, you know that there are certain guys that will always have your number once that number comes up when you're, let's say, in front of that person at a sparring session, right? You know that that person is going to do certain things to you, but you also know what you can do to that person in order to counter them. Well, I think the fact that Anthony Joshua has had experience with Daniel Dubois in the gym sort of stunned him in a way where he got PTSD in moments where he got rocked. He's like, wow, you know what? Every time I get hit by this guy, this is what happens. So it's almost like the reason you constantly kept seeing Anthony Joshua fall back every time Daniel Dubois would throw anything is because maybe there's some psychological factors there. Now, I don't know. Only Anthony Joshua can fully uh answer that truthfully to his own liking, but the reality is that you never know. I'm only telling you from my anecdotal experience that if you've trained with a guy and you know that they have your number, I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot difficult to recover from those shots when you know what their shots could do. Look, sometimes it's almost better to go into a fight and really naive about what your opponent can do, right? Because in other words, it's like the ignorance is bliss type of situation, right? Like you're going into that situation blissful, knowing that this guy can't hurt you. And that is why the term called ignorance is bliss. But anyways, yeah, I think knowing that Daniel Dubois can hurt you affected Anthony Joshua in a negative way, and I think that it showed in this fight. So yeah, I think he needs to do a lot of different adjustments going into the rematch. I think there's a lot that he's going to work on. I'm sure that he's very cognizant of that, very well aware of that. But I also know that Anthony Joshua is not going to go anywhere other than jump into a rematch with this guy. Because guess what? They have a rematch clause, by the way. That's the next topic at hand that we should talk about. The fact that they have a rematch clause. The fact that AJ unapologetically was the real A side to this whole entire thing, even though Daniel Dubois was the champion. Now, how unusual and weird is this, right? You are the champion and you are walking out last. Or I'm sorry, you're walking out first. And Anthony Joshua is walking out last. And now that you've won, you're the champion. You still have to give this guy a rematch, even though you are champion. So put that in perspective. Those are the odds that Daniel Dubois has in this particular matter, right? He wasn't the A side, he was the B side while he was champion, and now he's being leveraged back into a rematch. Which, by the way, in all honesty, just not from a recency bias point of view, but just the fact that he has a good jab, I think he's got a great chance of winning the rematch. The only reason why we saw that there was a chance for Anthony Joshua to win the rematch against Andy Ruiz was because he had a decent jab that he should have used in the first place. Even with this, every time they went jab for jab, Daniel Dubois had the stronger punch, and that affected Anthony Joshua in a negative way. But either way, that is pretty much all that I have for the technical matters with this particular fight. Now let's talk about the life lessons that we have learned from this fight. Here's the life lesson that we learned from this particular fight between Adrian and Daniel Dubois. Number one, never underestimate anybody. And this fight absolutely proved that underestimating anybody honestly never works in the real world of combat sports, and in particular the heavyweight divisions, of whether it would be MMA, boxing, kickboxing, or everything in between. That's the first life lesson. The other life lesson that we must learn, just like what we constantly emphasize every time we talk about an athlete that is over the hill every week, is that it is okay to retire at some point. But it is also important to understand that you must also adjust your competition, which is what I think Anthony Joshua needs to do. Now, do I think that he needs to be in there with the Daniel Dubois, the Alexander Usyks, or Tyson Furies of the world? No. Is there a world that he should be in there with Tyson Fury? Yes. Let's say if Tyson Fury was the loser of Alexander Usyk, and let's say if Alexander Usyk puts it on him in such a devastating fashion that it would alter him. Only then it would make the Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury fight an even bigger 50-50 fight than it ever has before, even if they were in their prime. So that is what I mean by adjusting his competition. Get in there with fun fights. Get in there with other top heavyweight fighters from the world of MMA that want to try their luck in the world of professional boxing, because he's done great with Francis Ngannou in that. Not saying that Tyson Fury didn't, but he scathed by in that fight. And Anthony Joshua just looks like the guy that if you brought him in there with a very inexperienced guy, he's going to devastate them. And there's nothing wrong with that. Adjust your competition. Floyd is adjusting his competition. Conor McGregor has mentioned about adjusting his competition in the latter years of his career. Maybe that's the reason why they're avoiding this Michael Chandler fight. You never know. But one thing remains by the end of it all is that combat sports will forever be known as the theater of the unknown. And because of that, these are the results that you're going to see on the weekly basis. Now, is there a world that Anthony Joshua won this fight and we're looking at the post-fight, the same similar celebration fashion that we would when he beat Klitschko in the same arena, by the way? Is there a world that something like that exists? Yes. But the reality is the reality in which we live in right now. And that reality says that Daniel Dubois is the new face of British boxing due to the fact that he had defeated Anthony Joshua and the fact that he's been having Anthony Joshua's number the entire time. You see, this illusion of the greatest of all time is something that we all need to really understand. None of that exists. It only exists because we were given the right places, the right circumstances at the right times to win these fights in order to catapult our careers into the next step. Only then to crumble when we run across the likes of Andy Ruiz, when we run across the likes of Daniel Dubois in the latter stages of Anthony Joshua's career, dating back to the early stages of his championship career and the struggles that he had against Andy Ruiz. Now, same similar struggle facing against Daniel Dubois. But understand this, right? Just because somebody loses, it doesn't mean that they're done or they're over the hill or anything like that. You have to understand that those circumstances are different in the different ranges and the different types of prime that these men experience and the adjustments that they need to make as a result of their current existence and their current state. So in conclusion, if Anthony Joshua doesn't win this fight, because guess what? He's not going to go into a tune-up fight. He's not going to go into an easy fight. He's going to go into a fight with Daniel Dubois straight away and try to avenge that loss, which is inadvisable in my humble opinion, but he's going to do it anyway. But if he does and he ends up losing, he needs to adjust his competition. He's still one of the top heavyweights in the world. I just don't know about championship levels, and that's something you have to understand. There is a difference between top 15. And then the guys way below top 15, not even to be considered. And then there's a difference between guys that are top 10. And then there's a difference between guys that are top 5. And even the guys that are among top 5, there is a difference between the top 2 and the top tier of each division. But all throughout those times, we all evolve, we all change, and we all decline. And that is the lesson that we must learn from this entire fight card and this entire event. And how ironic Conor McGregor was also part of that event as well. So don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next content. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Great card. Wasn't able to do it on a live stream, but was still able to come in here and do it for the reaction. So I will be back with some more videos, some more live streams, and some more content in the near future, if not soon, inshallah. Like and subscribe.